Elena had lived in the small town of Blackwood for almost 3 years, but there was one place she had never visited. The abandoned house across from her apartment. It stood behind a rusted iron fence, hidden beneath enormous trees. The windows were broken, the walls were covered in dark stains, and the roof had partially collapsed. Everyone in town knew its story. 20 years earlier, a woman named Clara Voss had lived there with her daughter. One night, neighbors heard screaming. When the police arrived, the house was locked from the inside. Clara was never found. Her daughter was never found either. The only thing the police discovered was an old mirror standing in the upstairs bedroom. After that night, nobody wanted to go near the house. But Elena didn't believe the stories. Until she began hearing her name. It started one Monday night. At exactly 2:13 a.m., Elena woke suddenly. She wasn't sure what had awakened her. The room was completely silent. Then she heard it. Elena. She sat up in bed. Her heart began beating faster. The voice had come from outside. She looked toward the window. Across the road, the abandoned house stood beneath the moonlight. Elena. She pulled the curtains shut. "It's nothing," she whispered. But the next night, it happened again. 2:13. Elena. The third night, the voice said something different. "Please, help me." Elena called the police. They searched the area but found nobody. One officer told her that old buildings often made strange sounds when the temperature changed. Elena wanted to believe him. Then the voice began speaking every night. Sometimes it whispered her name. Sometimes it cried. Sometimes it laughed. But the strangest thing happened on the 7th night. At exactly 2:13, Elena heard herself whisper from the abandoned house. "I'm scared." She immediately ran to the window. The house was completely dark. Then she saw something. A woman was standing in the upstairs window. She was staring directly at Elena. Her face was pale. Her hair covered most of it. Elena blinked. The woman disappeared. The next morning, Elena crossed the street. She stood outside the rusted gate for several minutes before finally pushing it open. The gate screamed as it moved. The front door was already open. Inside, the house smelled of damp wood and dust. Elena's flashlight moved across the walls. Old photographs covered the hallway. She stopped. One photograph showed a family standing in front of the house. A man, a woman, and a little girl. The girl looked strangely familiar. Elena lifted the photograph closer. The little girl had the same eyes as Elena. On the back was a date. October 14, 2006. Elena frowned. She had been born in 2004. She continued upstairs. The hallway was covered with scratches. Some were deep enough to expose the wood underneath. At the end of the hallway was a locked door. Elena reached for the handle. A voice came from the other side. "Don't open it." Elena froze. It was her own voice. "Who are you?" she whispered. There was a long silence. Then, "I'm you." Elena stepped backward. The door suddenly unlocked. It slowly opened by itself. Inside was a tiny bedroom. There was an old bed, a broken chair, and dozens of photographs covering the walls. Elena walked toward them. Her flashlight moved across the photographs. Her stomach tightened. They were all pictures of her. Elena sleeping in her apartment. Elena walking to work. Elena buying groceries. Elena standing outside the abandoned house. Some pictures had been taken only hours earlier. She found one showing herself entering the house. She looked at the timestamp. 2:13 a.m. But she had entered the house during the afternoon. Then she noticed another photograph. It showed her standing in the same room. But behind her stood a dark woman. Elena slowly turned around. Nobody was there. She looked back at the photograph. The woman was gone. Then she heard breathing behind her. Slow, heavy, close. Elena turned. Nothing. The old mirror in the corner suddenly cracked. A thin line appeared across its surface. Then another. Then another. Elena stared at her reflection. Her reflection stared back. But something was wrong. Elena raised her right hand. The reflection didn't move. Instead, it smiled. Elena stumbled backward. The reflection pressed its palm against the other side of the mirror. "You shouldn't have come here." Elena couldn't move. "Who are you?" The reflection leaned closer. "I'm the part of you that remembers." The mirror began to shake. Suddenly, Elena remembered something. A childhood bedroom. A woman crying. A man shouting. A little girl hiding beneath a bed. And a mirror. The memories came flooding back. Elena had been in this house before. She had been the little girl in the photographs. But there was more. Her mother hadn't disappeared. She had been trapped inside the mirror. Elena heard a scream behind her. She turned. The dark woman stood in the doorway. Her face was finally visible. It was Clara Voss, Elena's mother. Mom. The woman smiled sadly. You finally remembered. Elena began crying. What happened to you? Clara pointed toward the mirror. It took me. The reflection suddenly laughed. The mirror shattered, but the glass didn't fall. Every broken piece remained floating in the air. Inside each piece was a different version of Elena. A child, a teenager, an older woman, and one version covered in blood, staring directly at her. Clara grabbed Elena's arm. Run. They rushed into the hallway. Behind them came the sound of hundreds of footsteps. The house was waking up. Doors slammed open. Whispers filled the rooms. Elena, come back. Don't leave us. Elena and Clara reached the staircase. Then Clara stopped. Elena looked back. Mom. Clara's face had changed. Her eyes were completely black. I can't leave. What? Clara pushed Elena toward the front door. It only wants you. The door slammed shut between them. Elena screamed and tried to open it. On the other side, Clara whispered. Don't look into the mirror again. Then everything went silent. Elena escaped the house before sunrise. Police searched it for hours. They found no sign of Clara. No photographs. No mirror. No evidence that Elena's mother had ever been there. The house was completely empty. Elena returned to her apartment and tried to forget everything. That night, she finally fell asleep. At exactly 2:13 a.m., she opened her eyes. Her bedroom was dark. She heard breathing beside her bed. Elena slowly turned her head. Nobody was there. Then she noticed something hanging on her bedroom wall. A photograph. She hadn't put it there. It showed the abandoned house. Elena was standing in front of it. Behind her stood Clara, and behind Clara was the dark woman from the mirror. Elena looked at the date. August 25, 2026. Tomorrow. Then her phone began ringing. The caller ID showed her own number. She answered. For several seconds, there was only silence. Then Elena heard her own voice whisper. Don't go to sleep tomorrow night. She swallowed. Why? The voice answered. Because that's when I get out. The call ended. Elena stared at the phone. Then she heard something scratching beneath her bed. Slowly. 3 scratches. Then 3 more. She didn't move. A voice whispered from underneath. Elena. She closed her eyes. The voice became louder. Elena. Look at me. She refused. Then the voice changed. It became her mother's voice. Please, sweetheart, I'm cold. Tears filled Elena's eyes. She almost looked. Then she remembered Clara's warning. Don't look into the mirror again. Elena slowly turned toward the bedroom wall. There was no mirror there. But in the darkness of the window, she could see her reflection. And her reflection was smiling. Elena wasn't. The reflection raised one finger to its lips. Then whispered. Tomorrow, we switch places.